With a number of COVID-19 cases on the rise throughout the state of Texas, there have been more and more requests regarding the upcoming school year. While we still don't have all the answers, we'll be publishing episodes weekly to provide what information we do have and keep you updated on the 2021 school year. I'm Andrew Kim, Superintendent of Schools with the Comal Independent School District. Joining me today is our special guest, Aidan Karr, who is a student of ours in our school district. He's going to be a freshman here at one of our high schools. I won't name that right now because I don't want him to get all the accolades and probably all the things. But Aidan is a student, and he is joining me today because he has a podcast of his own.
I do.
In fact, he's got more following than I think I do in that regard. Anyway, so we are going to do a podcast within a podcast. So he's doing a podcast and I'm doing a podcast. And we're going to share our content information out there for the sake of efficiency and time. So, Aidan, welcome to my show, but why don't you introduce your show?
Okay. Hey, guys, welcome back to the Aidan Podcast. Today I'm here with our special guest, Andrew Kim, the Superintendent of Comal ISD. Mr. Kim, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. So I think we're going to go back and forth because I want to know some stuff from you.
Okay.
And I think you want to know something from me, for your audience members.
Yes.
Now, first and foremost, how long have you been doing your podcast? And it's called the Aidan Karr Show or the Aidan Show?
Just the Aidan Show.
And you can find it on iTunes.
You can find it on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, even though Apple Podcasts hasn't been updating our latest episodes. Spotify's a big one, or just go to the Anchor browser. You can find our podcast there. Yeah,
I listened to one about dress code a few weeks ago. That was pretty good, I thought. It was pretty funny. But so anyway, you got that show going on. Mm-hmm. And how many episodes do you have?
I think we are on right now. This will be probably our 15th to 16th episode.
Wow.
And we interview multiple people from, we're supposed to have a congressman on very soon.
Oh, is that right?
It is Chip Roy, Congressman Chip Roy.
Good.
And I think I'm going to post another interview that I'm having tomorrow with the CEO of FreedomWorks, who's coming down and giving us a generous interview. So I started it at the beginning of the coronavirus break just to have something to do. And then we started
because you didn't have enough homework.
Yeah, exactly. And I also didn't have the school that we had. I could get it done pretty quickly. I also had so much more free time on myself. I'm like, hey, I want to do something, you know? Yeah. So I'm like, why not start this podcast? So I started it, and then we started getting money actually donated to us.
Nice.
In the first month, we got $1,000 donated.
Yeah, that's good.
And now we're getting about a monthly revenue of $1,000 to $500.
What? Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Man, that's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll have to talk about that after this show. All right. So let's kind of talk about this. So, I'll give you the opportunity first to ask you some questions.
So regarding the 2020 school year, specifically for Comal ISD students, how are we taking the precautions? Or I know that kids just want to go to school, period. I'm just going to start off with that.
Is that right?
It is. Because
you're talking with a lot of your friends.
I am. And we want to go to school for sports. We want to go to school for just to get out of the house because we've been caged up there for a while.
Right.
And how are we taking precautions or brand new precautions to help start the school
year?
Yeah.
So first of all, there's been a lot of information that's out there, and I probably will admit, and you may need to admit to me that you guys probably haven't read any of that stuff that's on our website about all of the protocols. I mean, there's a 55-page document, multiple podcasts about how we're going to handle this. We've ordered PPE equipment or masks for teachers, as well as enough for supplying for kids if they need to have one. We have cleaning supplies that are coming in. Some of them are a little bit delayed just because of the supply chain issue across the nation. But as soon as they're getting in, we're putting them out there. We've been disinfecting, cleaning the places over and over again, all of our buildings. But we're also have a lot of things like, one-way hallways, social distancing areas, having extra lunch periods, for example, so that it's not just one or two lunch periods, multiple lunch periods. So there's a lot of things like that, and teachers been getting trained on it. Principals been working on it with me for about a good month now, I guess, trying to get everything ready to go. And ultimately, because we have a percentage of parents choosing to go remote learning, we'll have physically less students in the building. So we're trying to make that work in our advantage from a social distancing perspective.
Okay.
So a lot of that is happening. Obviously, a lot of outdoor activities because, sunlight does help with this virus. So, a lot of our activities are geared towards that. We're going to try to have lunch outside. I mean, the list is pretty extensive in terms of what we're trying to do to get things going. I will say when you show up, first day of school, there's gonna be a level of orientation that you're gonna have to go through as a student about like doing your part, right? Like wearing a mask, types of masks that's more effective than others, right? And so we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about washing your hands. We're gonna talk about sanitizing. We're gonna talk about if you brought your own device, you may need to wipe that down before you go to the next class, right? Washing hands, sanitizing your hands, doing a screener before you come to school. And the screener is something your parents will have to do for you. And it's really 2 questions. Have you been showing symptoms? Have you been exposed? You either say yes. If you say yes, then stay home. If you say no, then come on back to school. So there's going to be a sort of an honor code, an honest system on that. Because truly we don't know.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're going to have to take care of yourself. Your parents are going to take care of us and be honest with us as much as possible. And we want parents to err on the side of caution. So if you're feeling a little bit sick, normally in a non-pandemic year, you may still come to school.
Yeah.
This year, we may be saying, maybe stay at home, remote learn for that day. Let's just see whether or not that's truly a symptom or real symptom or not, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of protocols in place like that.
So a big thing I got from that is like the core like sick to school thing. You kind of help eliminate that where you can still get your learning in. So that way you don't have to catch up for the other day's work. You just get your online learning in. That's a big help, especially for high school students and upper class middle school students with all these classes that they have to keep track of.
Yeah. And I think the big difference between what happened, last school year at the end of it is that now we're going to be taking attendance. Remember, we didn't take attendance and we didn't take grades by and large. Well, now we're going to be taking grades. Okay. So that's another big thing. So you may not have a podcast career when school starts. Who knows? You may not have enough free time depending on the stuff that you take. You know what I mean? So yeah, there will be homework. There will be stuff to do. Remote kids as well as on-campus kids. So it's going to be like that. Okay.
And just another question for you. So regarding the sports, as the Comal ISD schools have been practicing for football, volleyball, whatever sport that is, I'm just going to start off with the question. Do you think that we'll be able to play sports during the 2020 to 2021 school year?
Yeah, our intent is to do that. In fact, right now, as we speak, first of all, we had an awesome strength and conditioning camps for the month of June, July. We had close to about 1,000 kids per day, every day. And out of that, we had 1%, 10 kids that were case managed of symptoms or positive cases. All right. And, by the way, we found out that those cases really stem from family gatherings, parties and select sport associations and things of that nature. But we had a great strength and conditioning camp. And some of our schools, the 4A high schools, have now gone into competition mode. So we've had volleyball games already. The 6A and the 5A program, Canyon High School and Smithson Valley, because of UIL rules, they will be delayed on starting their competition schedule. The problem, though, right now, I think we're going to face is whether or not we're going to have enough teams to play. So other school districts may cancel on us. So we don't want to, but that might be the case.
Okay.
The other situation, Aidan, is if there is truly a positive case, a player has to be, quarantined at home. Hopefully that's just one player, one student. But if it's multiple, because once again, we're not really taking care of ourselves, then if, let's say, the whole team is unavailable because they're quarantined, I mean, that's a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Then we may have to forfeit a game or cancel a game. Does that make sense there?
Yes.
So once again, if you and your friends are interested in playing sports and being in school, gosh, please take care of yourself, right? Like create a personal bubble, a family bubble like the NBA has done, so to speak.
Yeah.
And let us know, hey, if you're sick, man, go to take a day off or go to remote learning, I should say. Do the remote learning and let's watch what that is instead of spreading it more potentially.
Yeah. I mean, and I fully agree with you on that. And I think that sports is such a big aspect of the high school career, especially if you're an athlete or even marching band, which I know that they've been taking precautions too. I've been going to strength conditioning camps, so we've been taking very good precautions.
Yeah, you've been going to strength and conditioning camps.
I have. And the precautions are awesome.
Is it how has it been? Has it been like restricted where it's like, oh my God, this is too restrictive or anything of that nature? Or
for the most part, I think it's been pretty free because whenever we're running outside, you don't have to really there's no mask, but they do enforce social distancing, which I do appreciate. And during weight room lifting, whenever you're lifting, you don't have to have a mask. Whenever you're spotting it, the mask has to come back on. And for football, whenever we're practicing, it has to be in the huddle, mask on. Whenever you're actually playing, mask can go off. Which I think they're not harsh rules, but they do abide by the guidelines, I believe.
And everybody's been pretty good about following those.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah.
I mean, because everybody wants to do this. We all want sports. We all want to go back to school. So it's kind of just like a kick in the face for everybody if we just work this hard.
Yeah.
And then somebody just messes it up for the whole team or the whole school.
Yeah, don't mess it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, that might be a good tagline here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially because I know that volleyball players and even kids at Canyon Lake, I think they're at the 3A level. They're already playing for a scrimmage. 4A. They're already playing for a scrimmage at Thursday, I think.
Yeah, actually, they've been playing. I actually went to one of Davenport, one of our newest high school games, and it was at first of all, it was really fun to watch.
Yeah,
I've forgotten, and I got to tell you, I'm not going to take for granted now going to games anymore. Yeah, because it was really awesome to see kids, playing and parents out there, and it was awesome to see that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we got competition going on.
Mm-hmm. So about the spectators now, let's just move on to spectators. How is that going to work?
Yeah, so UIL has given us, UIL stands for University Interscholastic League, which is a governing body of, it's almost like the NCAA of, high school.
Yeah.
So UIL is a governing body over all high school athletics and academic competitions and so on, fine art competitions as well in the state of Texas. And they've given us guidance about the percentage that you can have as a fans. Mm-hmm. So it's actually about 50% capacity of your gyms or your stadiums. Mm-hmm. So we're actually taking a little bit of harder stance and going a little bit lower than that because we want to make sure that we can really social distance in the stands. Mm-hmm. And you have to buy your tickets online only.
Okay.
So you can't just walk up and get a ticket. Mm-hmm. And we only allow a certain number in at a time so that we're not crowding the entry.
Okay.
Right. The gyms or whatever the case might be. We haven't had a football course to deal with yet, but volleyball, we've been dealing with that right now. And it's worked out well. We made some adjustments here and there. One of the adjustments we just made recently is giving our employees a little discount on the online ticket costs. Mm-hmm. So that's really the only adjustment that we just recently made yesterday, I guess. But so far it's been good. It's been good.
So during the stands, let's say we're doing football or basketball or volleyball. So will you have like sections of the stand close off, or will there be like a space in between each seat, or like a family group that you have to sit with?
We are really asking social distance to occur. If you're a part of the family, you can kind of sit together as a family, of course. But we're going to have to really social distance here. So we have administrators and others who are directing that traffic.
Okay.
But we're also utilizing home and the visitor side. Mm-hmm. So we may have to have people sitting on the visitor side, even though your home team is playing, our kids. So we're not expecting a lot of visiting team to travel, and they have a certain allotment of seats.
Yeah.
For the visiting side. So really, it's going to be spreading on both sides of the stadiums or the bleachers.
Okay. And about the band, the marching band or just band in general, that they play at the football games and stuff like that. Will it be the same for band?
Same sort of thing. Now, we are talking about having sort of a pep squad band, so smaller band out there. We may do some marching stuff with smaller groups of kids once again. So those are all being worked out right now by the fine arts and the marching band directors. Mm-hmm. But we'd like to, once again, provide opportunities. As you know, we actually have more kids involved in our marching band than we do in our football teams.
That's awesome.
That's a lot more kids, right? So we want to make sure that they get an experience too. Obviously with all the social distancing and the protocols we have in place.
But I think it's be a little bit more harder for them because I remember the games from last year. They're all crammed together.
They are
because they have to be. I mean, because they have big instruments,
right? So we can, right? So we're going to spread them around just as much. So that's going to be something we have to look at. So like a little pep squad band.
Yeah.
So we're looking at something of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah.
So also regarding the school year, so I know that you said there's going to be like staggered lunches and stuff like that. and one-way hallways. Is there any other like huge changes, whether that's you're not allowing certain type of masks, you're not doing stuff like that?
Great question. So the mask is a very important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, the research on this is seems to be changing
Every day,
right? Sometimes. And so it's important to wear from my understanding now, a cotton mask, something that has a filter in it. So I think it's important that we've been trying to go and get the information out to parents, because I know a lot of parents have already bought one or, have one. So wearing a mask, a disposable mask, or a cotton mask that's multi-layered, multi-fabric, that's cross-stitched, is the best mask to do. In fact, we're going to show a video on this to all the students in the first few days of school to let you see the effects of different masks.
Okay.
That from a sneezing, coughing situations and whatnot. So I think it's important to do that. A lot of kids started wearing gaiters, neck gaiters. And what we found out recently is that that's not the most effective. Now, if you two-ply the neck gaiters, or if you buy a two-ply or two fabric-based neck gaiters, then it's better, right? So once again, I think it's the type of the fabric that's being utilized and so on. Like I wear a bandana.
Yeah.
And bandanas are not good. But the ones that I bought are triple layered. And it's got a built-in filter in it. So it's a special different bandana that I bought. And, so I bought like 4 of these. So I can change it out every day. And it's washable too. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think it all depends on the type of fabric, different things that you buy. We have a little guidance on this, a little pictorial. But I got to tell you, I know everybody's been buying stuff all over. Now, we're going to give you one if you want one. So we have masks to give out if you want one.
Okay. And just building on that, will they be like, I know the question is like, oh, are they going to be school themed or something like that? Just a little fun little question. Will they be school themed to your school like the lanyards were?
Yeah.
I know last year they had like different lanyards for different schools.
Yeah.
Will it be like kind of like that?
Yeah. So I've been really impressed. Many schools have already ordered like school logoed masks, some gaiters as well, of course, and others. And so, no, I've been really appreciative of all the work that's gone behind the scenes to make all that work. And I hate to say it, but it may become a new fashion statement in some sense. I don't know. So there's going to be a lot of that.
So I heard that the Bernie High School, who's already in session, came down to Canyon High School and it just said, do you know like the stuff that they told you and like the stuff that happened around there and just the stuff that they told you to be prepared for and stuff like that?
Yeah, so we have a good partnership with Bernie ISD as well as some of the others around us. And so they opened up a few weeks ago, in-person school as well as remote learning. So we learned a lot. We spent some time with them to ask some questions about what they learned. And I got to tell you, what they've said was that a lot of the questions came about as a result of remote learning issues. So a lot of kids had problems about logging in. They didn't know their password or the passcode, from home and so on. And a lot of the homes don't have the good internet capabilities either. So there was a lot of troubles with that. So we talked a lot about that. We listened a lot about that. We talked a lot about how to do arrival of kids in the morning, better way. So that's really helped us out to figure out how to, start the day. I think that's going to be the very important thing. Because, in a normal year, you just all show up and just kind of get together, right? So it won't be like that anymore. So we'll have to spread ourselves out. You have to go directly to this classroom. So it's going to be a different change in that regard.
And another big thing is that I got some insider intel that they said like it's the kids just want to be back at school. They're going to abide by it the best they can. Of course, there will be a few troublemakers, but they're going to be abiding by it the best they can. Because I know that I want to go back to school. And I know the people I talk to, they want to go back to school and they want to get
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And you got this intelligence source, huh?
I did. Yeah. Somebody told me that they said that it's the kids just want to go back to school, which I know from personal experience that yes, we want to go back to school. We want to have our lives back,
Yeah. What's been the major, you think, issues though, while you guys were out in, remote learning or just sitting at home in the emergency situation with the pandemic?
I would just say that every now and then the classes will it'll be either a review or something. It's hard to learn something new, especially during the remote learning circumstance, which I understand. They kind of threw it on you, and I think you guys prepared the best for it. that than the time slot you guys were given. But it was hard to learn something new. But we tried to I was in shop class, we couldn't do anything there, so it just kind of said, hey, find measurements, the teachers just tried to find as many resources as they could, and whether that's watching a history video or that's doing a PowerPoint on science, it's just stuff like that. But it was a lot more, I would say, more project based, like online project based, which I do appreciate because I like projects myself. Sure. But it was a lot more project based because they give us like a week to do it, especially on a big assignment. Like I know in science they have like us find stars and stuff like that. So I mean, but that's really only critique is that it was hard to like fully gain something new instead of, because in person it's such a different experience, and I definitely took that for granted whenever I was in school.
And I gotta tell you, one of the things I'm trying to really talk with our community and parents and obviously our students about is really watching what everybody does on evening hours and the weekends, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen on weekends, right? I mean, what if that kind of message goes out? You think everybody would be receptive to that, to like really kind of almost like take care of yourselves on the weekends and not have these extreme parties that you hear about across the nation and all that?
I think it would be, but I think the only problem would be the weekends, which that's understandable a little bit from from the student perspective, because hey, it's the weekend, we want to hang out with buddies and stuff like that. But I think that if you enforce it,
it's hard for me to enforce.
It's hard to enforce, but
outside our school.
If you just point at it enough times, I think they'll get an idea in their head.
But is that out there though? Is that understanding out there?
I think it is, because they want to get football, and if they do have a thing, it's a small group. That's what I've been seeing. Like guys would get together and just a small group of guys, nothing huge.
Yeah.
But I do think it may work, especially if you just reiterate the point, like saying, hey, you're letting all of your teammates down if you don't help yourself out, or you're letting your whole school down,
And I want to say that I know you're bringing up football, and I don't want the audience to think that you only care about football, because I know you don't.
I don't.
Personally knowing you, but certainly because you're doing that because you're involved in football.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of friends in football team, but certainly marching band, everything else, FFA. I mean, ROTC.
Organizations, too.
Yeah, all the organizations that's out there quite a bit. And I know you talk with a whole bunch of kids who are not part of football on your podcast. I've listened to a couple of those. So I appreciate that.
I understand, like dance, it could be a little bit challenging because you have to spread out. And it's a dance routine.
Yeah.
Especially in organizations, like if we want to have an on-school organization like FCA or many other organizations. I just feel like that it's going to be a hurdle that we have to get over, but I bet you we can get over it if we just have a community and a student body, a community just impact on it. I bet you it'll be easier.
Yeah, so I have a high school student advisory that I meet with and once a month, and I got to tell you that it's been good. They've been giving some good feedback, just as you are about that. So, but I've been worrying about some of our students though. I got to tell you, their sort of their health, I guess, wellness about COVID. But also there's just some mental health issues in terms of just not being part of a school system.
That's one big thing I have a problem with about schools being closed, especially on online learning. You have to have a friend group, and it's been harder for kids to reach out to people, especially if you have home abuse or if you're living in a hard home. And I think that sports, band, whatever you do, theater, even school, that's a super good outlet just to connect with people that can help you out with these sort of circumstances, because depression rates have gone through the roof during this whole coronavirus thing, which that worries me a little bit, because I'm like, we need something to help this. And I think school, just in-person learning, will help that so much tremendously, because kids were going to have a better chance to reconnect with people, and they could also go to like a counselor if they need help or something, especially since like the family may not be able to pay for a counselor. It's provided in school.
I'm hoping that, a lot of your, folks who listen to, I know a lot of kids do listen to your podcast, will be kinder and gentler to teachers this year as a result of all of this, by the way. Just at least, just to get it started. Just make sure, because, hey, they're going to be, teachers are really worried about everything right now, and they're concerned about their health, which they should be. We are too. So I hope that students understand that. As
they should be concerned about their health, especially if they're in the more vulnerable group, which I understand, like, hey, that's a problem,
Yeah, if we don't have our teachers, then we can't have school
exactly.
either.
And so I think you guys are doing a good job just trying to find a happy middle ground for everything, just like everything from sports to academics and fine arts and teachers even. I know the coaches from our point, they're fine with whatever rule they have to do, but they just want to get back into school, you know?
Yeah.
Even some of the more older coaches, they just want to see kids.
Hey, you said it, not me.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be honest. But it's a really, whenever I was going to strength conditioning, it's just a really empowering thing just to see everybody just resuming life, you know, because we did have to put life on a standstill for a little while.
And I hope that it's giving everybody a pause to not take things for granted. Hopefully,
that's what I definitely.
You know what I mean? We took having school every day for, in some sense, maybe like, oh, it's an automatic thing, but man, not having it, I really understood. Like, man, I really missed it myself. I still miss it.
That's what I was like. I'm like, I don't get to see my friends every day. You know, that kind of hit me, and I'm like, oh, you know, this is a new kind of normal for the time being. But especially since we get to go back in person, that's a big help. That's a really big hurdle that we jumped over, and I think that's awesome. Especially since I know school district San Antonio, Bexar ISD, they're not doing school for the first week, I believe. And that's the only one I really know about. But I know that they're not doing school for the first week. You took the risk of saying, hey, we got to get these kids back into school, you know?
Well, we gave a lot of personal choice to parents because, you know, this is such a personal issue, in my opinion. I think that we want parents to make a right decision of considering mainly the health concerns that they have at the home. We certainly are trying to work with our teachers on that area. Because we have about 40% of our parents choosing remote learning for their kids, for their children, it does give us a way to also then be able to take care of our teachers. So that's been sort of a nice little step in that regard. And certainly we want to obviously do a lot of more things to take care of those.
Okay. So I'm going to go to break real quick, unless you want to say anything else. I'm going to go to break, and thank you all for listening. Again, this is kind of like a podcast and a podcast for the podcast that Mr. Kim hosts and podcast that I host. But thank you all for listening, and we'll see y'all after the break. Hey guys, welcome back to the Aidan podcast. I'm back here again with Mr. Kim. Mr. Kim, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for inviting me back again. The second part of this.
Problem, yes, sir. So I know that I've been asking you questions. Would you like to ask me anything to start the second portion off?
I'm just glad to know the perspective of the students, you know, and I think that if you can get the word out about kids doing their part, students doing their part, to make sure that one, they're taking care of themselves, that obviously when they're in school, and we have a lot of things to control that, but I'm really worried about what happens when you go back home on the weekends. We all had to make some sacrifices. So I would really ask that, parents and kids not gather together, really be watching out for that kind of stuff, and not have major big parties and stuff of that nature. I think that also it's important that parents and students also err on the side of caution. If you wake up that morning with, just don't fatigue or you're not feeling good, we got to assume that let's err on the side of caution and say, hey, that could be something related to COVID, the virus, so let's go ahead and stay home that day. And let me just go be remote for that day. Notify the school of the situation and all that good stuff like you would normally do. But we really need to do all of that. I know, like I said, some parents may not have the opportunity to do that or the financial means to be able to do that, perhaps. So I get that. In that regard, we may have to help out in some sense, but I tell you what, we don't want anybody coming up to school if they really feel like there's some symptoms that they're kind of thinking about.
Yeah. And I mean, I fully agree with that because it would just be messing everybody else up. Because everybody else wants to live their life as their parents and they want to live it.
Sure.
So I understand how, like, you would say, hey, just don't come to school, especially if you're feeling ill or if you're feeling just a little bit ill. It's just safer because especially since you guys are offering online learning now, that's a big deal.
So it's one thing if we didn't offer the remote learning, but since we are offering that, you can be at remote learning, and I hope many folks will choose that actually.
So another thing I wanted to talk to you about is that you have gotten a lot of flack for opening back up the schools, and there's been small, I'm not going to say big, they weren't really that big, small peaceful protesters who came and they're just worried about their own health. What would you say to help enforce positive outlook for the school year.
Yeah, no, once again, I think that everybody has a voice and everybody has certainly a right to, voice those concerns. And, it does help. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. We always listen as much as we can. We certainly have plenty of information that's been communicated to them. My staff has spent a lot of time with many of those folks, talking with them quite a bit. We have information that's on our district webpage, on the Comal Parent Center, FAQ questions. So many of those concerns that's been brought up, we feel like we've addressed many of those things, and I think it's a situation that I feel like I hope that they are encouraging parents and others to take the remote learning option as a result of that. Because once again, I think that we are trying to provide options to our parents, and we want parents to make that decision based upon health concerns. Aidan, it's one of those things where I don't know, like, whether or not you live with your grandmother or grandfather. And if that's the case and there's concerns about their health, then you may have to decide to be a remote learner for some time, right? So I think those are personal parent decision, family decisions that I don't feel like I need to invade, that I don't feel like I need to dictate. What I'm trying to do is, hey, here's the information. Here's how we're going to do remote learning. Here's how we're going to do on-campus learning. So please make good decisions for your family for the sense of health. And then I think it helps us, because then if we can get a good number of parents to go and be remote learners, then it will help us for our teachers as well too. So I think that's what we're trying to accomplish.
I fully agree with you, but the only thing that I would say is that I feel like that since you gave the thing that online and at home learning, I just don't understand why people are trying to cancel the school learning, because they do have a choice to remote learn online, which I'm all for either way. Whatever way you see fit for your kid, please do it. But not all parents see fit for their kid to do online learning. A few of them are very vocal about, hey, I want my kid to go back to school, which I do think that shutting down the whole school and shutting down all that thing, that would make everything worse, in my opinion, than having what you have right now, which is, hey, if you want to do online learning, go do online learning. But if you want to come to school, please.
Yeah. And, I'm just kind of saying a little bit more than I should in some sense, my personal thing about this. But I think that, what we need to really worry about as a community as a whole is also what happens on the weekends and what happens the various things. Because, frankly, the high point of the cases in our state and our region was occurring right after July the 4th. Well, schools weren't open. Schools aren't open. So, these are things that are spreading in other places. Now, I understand that the fear is when the kids come to school, it's going to spread even more. I get that. I fully understand it. I fully understand what's going on. So, but that's why we want to make sure that parents understand that and then be able to choose remote learning. So we're saying, please, if you know of symptomatic cases at home or others, please encourage them to quarantine, right? Encourage them to self-isolate, and then also choose a remote learning option. It's going to be fantastic.
That's why I like what our district's doing rather than other districts, personally, because I'm a student here. Because I get the choice of what my parents and me, we got to decide what I did.
So did you guys talk about that?
We did. They said, hey, would you like to do online or in person? At first I said, I want to do in person no matter what, like that's my preference. But they also went over, they're like, hey, we're gonna talk about it, my dad and my mom, and they're like, hey, we'll get back to you. They just wanted my preference for what I would prefer.
Sure. Yeah.
And they said, hey, we think that you should do in-person school. So I said, okay, that's awesome.
But you guys talked about the remote learning too.
We did. They did talk to me about it. They definitely did. They was like, hey, but this is a good option. That's actually the option that my little sister is taking. She's taking the remote learning option.
Okay, good. All right.
And because it's just a different circumstance for her. Because it's just circumstantial in our family. And especially, I think, other families, it's very circumstantial where I'm more of a social kid. And she's also a very social kid, but she also, they just thought it'd be best for her just to say, hey, just do online learning. She wanted to do online learning a little bit, but the parents were like, hey, we're just going to do online for the first few weeks, see how it goes. Yep. And then we're going to, if it goes well.
Remember, at every grading period, you can make another decision. So every grading period, so around October the 19th, when the grading period ends and the new grading period begins, we'll give an opportunity for every parent to make a decision again there.
So a question about that. So let's say that if you don't feel good a day, but you're going to in-person learning, but you don't feel good a day, will you have to take off the rest of the period, the academic period, or would you be able to come back to school?
So that goes into the notion of case management. So there's a few things. So let's just say that you come to the first day of school and you're okay physically, health-wise, but you just don't like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I like this.
Yeah.
Then, we'll work it to change your schedule to be a remote learner. Now, once you become a remote learner, though, you're going to be in remote learning mode until the grading period changes. All right. But let's just say you come to school, it's second day of school, and you are feeling sick. So then we're going to isolate you. We're going to go ahead and make sure that your parents can come and pick you up. We're going to, right now, at this point, until you guys tell us otherwise, we're going to treat it as if you have the virus. That means you're going to self-quarantine. We're going to ask you to stay remote learning for 14 days.
Okay.
Now, you may go and get a test to prove whether or not you still have. That's up to you and your mom and your dad to do that. But we're going to go ahead and that's how we're going to case manage the situation.
Okay.
Now, and that's important. But I'm hoping that you will self-identify those symptoms before you come to school, right? So, but sometimes it may not actually happen, so we get that.
And that's why you also have the online screenings.
Yeah, everybody's going to have to do a screening before you come to school. So it's really 2 quick, fast questions you're going to need to. I had to do the screening myself before I entered the building, any building. Basically, I answered the question like, hey, have you been exposed? Did you showing any symptoms? I push no. Have you been exposed or been around anybody who's been? I push no. So I got to be honest with it. And then that's how it goes.
That's what they do at the screening conditioning camp, which I know too. They give us the paper screening because the rank one's being a little bit fishy.
Yeah, but we're going to be launching a new app.
Really?
Yeah, next week. So starting of the school year, so every parent's going to get this awesome app. Then you could be do that through the app.
Can we maybe get a little bit inside scoop on that app? Like, is it just for online screening? Or
yes, it's only for online screening. So it is an app that will be going out. We're going to send directions out to all the parents out there, to all the kids and all of our staff members. In fact, I'm piloting it right now. A group of us here at Support Services, we're piloting it. So we've been using that app to do our screening right now. So starting the 24th of August, we'll be issuing out that app address. That QR code will also be posted around our schools. It'll be also given to you by email to parents. It'll be on our district website, probably on our social media accounts. So then you can go and basically download it and just keep it there and use that app.
Now I know from us, it's just 2 quick questions. Sign your name. What's the date? And just
that's
very
exactly
simple.
the same thing.
And I was just wondering, do you think that these will be in effect for the rest of the year? Of course, I know it's problematic stance because if cases rise, probably yes. But if cases die down or like really die down, what would be the response then? Yeah,
so I think right now we have to just take into account that our entire 2021 school year is going to be with this. So that's how we have prepared ourselves. That's what we're doing. There's a lot of talk about a vaccine being available January of 2021 or early 2021. Who knows, right? So, but I'm hoping that'll be the case, right? And that will be a great news for everybody and all of us. But we're actually designed. We have planned for this school year with the entire school year, going about doing this type of work. So you've just to reiterate that you plan for online. If kids are wanting to do online or if households are wanting to do online, you plan for them to be able to do that all school year. All year. That's right. All year long. Okay. So regarding the online learning and stuff like that, how would you, so what are the changes? Like, what are the major differences? I know that there are a lot of major differences that can you just give me a few from the other online learning to this online learning? Yeah. So if you recall the last 10 weeks that everybody's familiar with last school year, it was that, the teacher kind of put up some projects or work and you kind of did it on your own. And then you turned it in at the end of the year and so on and so on. You had office hours available where you can kind of call in, you can kind of see what's going on. But it wasn't like the day-to-day teaching. So remote learning this go around will be day-to-day teaching, which would be live synchronous learning. All right. But let's just say that you only have one device and your sister needs it, and you can't get a hold of it until later in the afternoon, then in that case, you become sort of an asynchronous learner where all those things are videotaped and you can actually watch those. All you have to do is, though, do some work every day on the Google Classroom for secondary kids, Seesaw Pro for the elementary kids by 11:59 p.m. every night to get counted present in our attendance tracking. And then obviously grades will be a whole different matter when you turn stuff into the teacher.
So it is like a day-to-day work cycle.
It'll be day-to-day work. There'll be day-to-day assignments potentially, depending on the class, homework. We are looking at various other ways of doing testing to be fair from an integrity situation there. But there'll be grades that'll be taken up. So you're going to get a grade all over.
Because I know last 10 weeks there was really no grade. And I know Governor Abbott said, hey, there's no star. But regarding to like tests and CAs and stuff like that, because I know we do district CAs and stuff like that, do you think that those would, I know kids in person, they're going to get the paper CA, right? And then...
Yeah, so we're looking at that right now. We may have longer days to do the CAs. They're common assessments, right? And they're really assessments to see where we are in our curriculum guide. So we're right now making some adjustments so that we don't put so much emphasis on the CAs. There is a STAR test by the state of Texas, but I got to be honest with you, right now, our number one priority is not about the STAR test. It's really about making sure that everybody's healthy, that everybody follows the protocols, that we really take care of one another. We also want to have school every day, as many days as possible. And then we want to really concentrate on great learning opportunities. Mm-hmm. And if that translates to a good performance on the STAR test, great. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to stress about the STAR test, if that makes sense.
So, like, I get what you're saying. Like, we want health and safety to come first, especially during this school year, since it's so much more different from the other one. And then the next would be academics and stuff like that. But academics is up there, I know that. But health and safety needs to come first, which I agree with.
Yeah, and I would say the third thing is engagement. So you're going to have remote kids or students who are remote learning. We want to make sure they're all engaged. So that's going to be a big thing. We also want kids who are on campus to be engaged as well, too. So once again, the experience is going to be unlike any other experience that we've always had. So we're going to have to really be thoughtful about that. And then really, like I said, the last thing we probably, worrying about right now is the STAR test or any kind of test.
So regarding the online learning too, how will the kids be able to ask questions in real time to the teacher whenever they're learning?
Yeah, so we're going to use Google Meets for both elementary and secondary. So you can actually log in that live class that's going on and basically say, hey, can I have a question, Mr. Kim? And then obviously you're not seeing the class, you're seeing the teacher on the monitor, but the teacher is also teaching the class while teaching you remote. So that's called a combo situation there. So we're going to have some of that. And so, yeah, you're going to be able to do that. Absolutely.
So I think that's really cool, especially since you have in live learning.
That's right.
And then over the internet learning. And I feel like that the online learning kids could also maybe like present a really good question that the kids who are going in person are like, hey, that may help us out. And I think that's
the
awesome.
only problem or the challenge that we foresee is we don't know the internet capability at each of the households, right? So some parents may have, 2G, 4G, I don't know. So I don't know what all those things are out there that campus or moms and dads have at their houses, or for that matter, what kind of devices they have. So that's going to determine a lot of things. So that might create a lot of frustrations in the beginning. We've given out over 2,000 devices, laptops to kids over the summer months. So we feel like we still have some to still give out. If people need some, they can call the school district number to request a device. And we're recommending, to be quite honest with you, a laptop with a keyboard. Doesn't have to be a fancy one, but a Chromebook would be great. We're not necessarily recommending an iPad unless there's a keyboard attached to it because you have to type.
Yeah.
So I think, iPad by itself is hard to do that, I think. So it's not that it's impossible, but I think, once again, having the right device does matter, I think.
And I know that I think I've heard this. I don't know if I'm right or if I'm wrong, but can you tell me if I'm right or wrong? You guys sent out like Wi-Fi buses or something like that?
We did. So last school year, we had about 8 buses, I believe. Don't quote me on that. That were retrofitted with Wi-Fi hub devices, and we parked those buses throughout the whole day at high density locations, homes. So this year we may be able to still do that, but we may need to use those buses, by the way, to transport kids. So That would be the thing that we have to think about. By the way, speaking of transportation, if I can say this,
yes,
we need everybody to be a car rider if possible. Mm-hmm. So if you can, parents, if you can go ahead and basically, drive your kids and pick up your kids, we need to make that happen.
Because I can definitely tell that bus is going to be a nightmare.
Well, we're going to try to have only 2 kids to a seat.
Okay.
So they'll have to wear a mask, assigned seating, and all that good stuff. But we just can't do we can't have a whole bunch of kids though, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, if parents can really help us carpool. So we want to reserve our bus ridership to really who really do need them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if parents can really help us out in that, it would be really helpful.
Yeah, totally. I fully agree with that statement, especially.
And I will tell you this: I've heard a lot about parents carpooling together, right? Yeah. Which is great. But I would say that if you're going to do that, make sure it's the same group of kids all the time. You kind of know, where you guys been hanging out together. Wearing a mask. All that good stuff. Right?
Make sure that you guys are know each other very well.
Yeah, I would say
where you've been.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of trust in each other.
Yeah,
coming up.
Because I know I do carpool to go strength conditioning, and we have to see, hey, where were you? We try to make ourselves as safe as possible.
Yeah, my son, he took one of your friends. I pick him up sometimes. I've done that. So, but we know. We kind of know what they're doing, and so we're just all being careful about it. And it's all about just taking responsibility of all of this. All of us have to do that.
And I fully agree with that. Because you have to play your part to make the game work.
It is. We're all gonna have to fight this together. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt.
And I feel like that this is a very big hurdle, especially for the school district and everything around it. But I feel like that we're probably gonna persevere through this, definitely.
I hope we do come out on the other side of this, Aidan, stronger, as a community, as a school district, and we're going to learn a lot about ourselves. We're going to learn a lot about, you guys, our teachers, a lot about our technology stuff. Yeah. We're going to learn a lot about, I think I have high hopes that we're going to have a stronger sense of who we are after all of this. Mm-hmm.
I fully agree with that. And I'm looking forward to this 2020 school year. And
so... Man, I tell you what, me too. But at the same time, I want to warp speed ahead to get it over with, right?
Yeah.
And so that we can get to the vaccine as soon as possible.
So that way we can just go back to everything.
The
closest we can.
And I think that'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be great.
I think it'll be great.
I can't wait for that.
Well, thank you guys for listening to the Aidan Show. We have Mr. Kim here, Superintendent of Comal ISD. Thank you so much for being on.
Well, thanks, Aidan. I appreciate it being here as well. And you've been listening to Comal ISD Radio as well. Join us next time as we talk more about special ed and other programs involved in the opening of the 2021 school year.